On opening day for this year's MLB season, there was a record low percentage of African American players. It's the second straight year for that, sitting at under 7% total, and that trend holds true here in Arkansas. I looked into how that impacts young African American players right here and how we could change this. In the 2022 World Series, the Houston Astros took down the Philadelphia Phillies. It also marked the first time since 1950, shortly after Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, that there were no African Americans in the World Series on either team. Sure, there are black players in the major leagues. In fact, 40% of the MLB consists of players of color, but the majority of them are from the Caribbean, from countries such as the Dominican Republic and Cuba. According to the 2023 MLB Racial and Gender Report Card, only around 6% of Major League Baseball players are of African American descent, the lowest since 1991. So what's behind the decline of the sport amongst African Americans? Well, a lot of it may start at the youth level, with cost being a factor. Just ask Shantae Rice. Her son Rylan, who's 19 now, grew up playing baseball in Pine Bluff.
You know, there are a lot of people in our hometown, believe it or not, that couldn't afford the $60 to $100 just for the summer ball. So that's the first, I think, deterrent with baseball, with African Americans, especially in my hometown.
That cost barrier is something seen by experts as well. Kevin Kendrick played college baseball at UAPB, but these days he works with student athletes at Florida International University and is an advocate for getting more African American youths into baseball.
Another layer of this is the resources financially. When you look at the backgrounds of the individuals who participate, they just don't have it. And therefore, you see numbers drop off dramatically.
Not just costs, but the dominance of other sports is something Rylan Blair says he saw firsthand. He played high school baseball at Pulaski Academy. As he grew older, he says he noticed a decline in teammates who looked like him.
Especially coming from Pine Bluff, because the league I played in called Pine Bluff Northern, it was majority black, and going from that to PA, where it's literally just me and maybe one or two other people, it was a drastic change, but it took a little bit of getting used to, but I mean, it's still baseball.
It's still baseball may be another part of the problem, at least when it comes to getting to the big leagues. Unlike many Division I football and basketball programs, most colleges don't give full ride scholarships for baseball. Minor league baseball players don't see the big bucks instantly, something that may influence which sport athletes choose to focus on.
In baseball, you get drafted and you may not see a player, show up to Major League Baseball for another 4 or 5, maybe 6 years. And obviously you have minor league, single A, double A, and triple A ball. And then before you even get to that, you have levels of independent ball.
An often lengthy process that's not usually the case in other sports, where top players go pro quick and get deals worth big money.
You put that up against sports like basketball, football. It's unfortunate that we have developed our young men and young women to find those other sports more attractive because of resources, because of the instant gratification piece, and then just a stigma that's where we're supposed to be.
So what can be done to encourage more African American youth to fall in love with America's pastime? That's where people like Terrell Brown come in, a current baseball coach at Jacksonville High School. He has years of youth coaching experience and has tried to make accommodations for up-and-coming athletes who struggle with affording to participate.
Sometimes I have to cut my rate down because you want those guys to succeed, and it's not all about the money, but when a building has a certain fee, you gotta abide by that fee. But I would still cut it down if they can't handle that hourly fee. I cut it down for me. If I got to try to pay out of pocket, I would try.
Outside of lowering costs, Coach Brown says having representation on the coaching side helps increase diversity.
I think it starts with getting black coaches and, just not only funding for black kids, but for everybody, but trying to lead the black community in baseball.
Rylan also hopes to inspire more kids to stick with baseball.
Just think about the bigger picture. I mean, you can't wake up one day and say you want to be successful and be successful by the end of the day. I mean, it's going to take time. You got to go put in work, countless hours, and eventually one day you'll wake up and you'll be where you plan on being that day in the past.
Opportunities are available, and we just have to stick to it. We have to be, consistent with it. Start, and it's any man's game. It's not just a race. If you're stick to it, if you're consistent, you can make it to where you want to be. It's your dream.
Of course, in the state of Arkansas, football is king, but it's important for kids to know that they can play multiple sports. Look at Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson, two amazing quarterbacks in the NFL, but they were also great baseball players when they were younger, so you can do both. And there's also studies that shows that playing multiple sports is super beneficial, helps prevent injuries, different muscles, and it's important for kids to just have those role models.
If you go home on Cantrell, you will pass Junior Deputy Park late at night. The lights are on, and there are players down there practicing at young ages, most of them white. They are in a white neighborhood, and they're getting training from the ground up. And that is another, well, you've already touched on it though, the resources available. It's an amazing development since when I was a kid.